It was really, really early days. But we were just doing IT in a different way.
This week on Now That's It.
We kind of have the same vision. We approach it from different angles completely, but we kind of meet in the middle.
Perry Bowles talks to Chris Massey about the unique origins of his business and makes some bold predictions for the future of the MSP industry.
Zero interest in selling Ziptech. Actually want to build it and make it one of the best MSPs in the world.
Welcome to Now That's It, Stories of MSP Success, where we dive into the journeys of some of the trailblazers in our industry to find out how they used their passion for technology to help turn managed services into the thriving sector it is today.
All right, Perry, thank you for being with us today.
No problem.
Love to hear a little bit about sort of your background, how you got started in the managed service industry, and maybe a little bit more about Ziptech.
So, oddly, what really got me into the managed service was a rival Kaseya, funnily enough. So I was working at a company where we did IT support, the traditional IT support. And I'd had this idea mulling around about doing some sort of proper remote support rather than on-site. So I used to use a thing called SMS. I don't know if you remember that,
Sure.
Microsoft SMS. So you could do some sort of remoting, but you had to kind of have a VPN in and that sort of thing. Kaseya came along. So we started using that internally. And I thought, this is great. I'm going to take this tool. I'm going to start my own business. Because I had a business a few years before that. I thought, I'm going to take my idea. So we kind of formulated this, what turned out to be like an MSP business internally. I thought, I'll take this externally. The CTO of Kaseya UK came to see how I'd set it up and all that sort of thing. So, goodness, this is pretty good. And I said, yeah, I think it's pretty good as well. I'm not going to take your tool. I'm not going to take it and, start a business. He said, well, actually, I know someone who's looking for someone technical, because they were on the sales side, to set up in business right now. I said, okay, give me his number. So we spoke. That's our MD, Jim Simpson, our CEO. So I met him. We were absolutely in unison to the point, I think 6 months after we started working together, he saw a mind map I'd done when I was working for this other company. And he said, did we go through that? Is that the mind map we put together? I said, no, I had that before I even met you. We were just in parallel.
In sync,
but
yeah.
he was sales. He couldn't find anyone technical that got the managed service thing because everyone in their mind was break fix and they just didn't get it.
Yep.
So we started off as managed service, started monthly recurring revenue. So that was kind of it. That's where we started. And it was just the reason Jim wanted to start the business because he was working for some larger companies. He used to be a turnaround CEO. So he'd go in and one of the things he wanted to cut back was staff, obviously. Not a nice job to do, but that's what you have to do.
Right.
And he could never find anyone any way of cutting back IT because he couldn't find anyone that could come into a smaller business, a 300 to 500 site business, not an enterprise, and do IT as an outsourced managed service. So he thought, well, I'm going to fill that gap. So we came at it from different angles.
Yep.
But, at the same time, at the same place kind of thing. So that's where we started. And that was it. So, yeah. So Kaseya was our way in. And in the early days, it was really early days of Kaseya.
Right.
So we had access to the developers of Kaseya. We could put in an idea and it would be in the product a week later.
Wow.
It was really, really early days.
Wow.
But we started managed service. We've never done break fix. And MSP, even then, wasn't a thing. We called ourselves monthly recurring revenue, whatever.
Yeah.
MSP became a thing later, as in the name MSP, managed service provider. But we were just doing IT in a different way.
Wow. That's fantastic. So the tool led you to the vision that this is how we sort of want to run the company.
Kind of the other way around.
Okay.
So the vision came first.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for the tool to arrive.
I gotcha.
And then the tool arrived.
Yeah.
I said, this is what we've been waiting for. I'd had this idea about doing this remote service for a while. SMS wasn't good enough. There wasn't anything else in the market.
Nope.
Then this agent that, put an agent on each machine, then they're reporting back through a secure port, 443, always calling out, no one's going in to the server. So yeah, it was the other way around.
Gotcha.
Kaseya arrived, and then that was like, there's the magic moment.
So let's talk about sort of early days, mid days, as you've grown. I mean, you've been at Ziptech for a number of years, right? You were sort
18.
of, that's fantastic. So as the company matured and you guys grew as a company, what were some of the challenges that you guys had run into? And what was the point where this vendor that you had sort of put all your your faith in, that it was, maybe you had to look outside
Good
and look.
question.
Yeah.
Good question. So, in terms of the early challenges, break fix was the way that IT was done.
Yep.
So, all the people we went to were going like, hold on, we have to pay you every month, even if nothing's going wrong.
Right.
It's like, hold on, the idea is we prevent things from going wrong.
Right.
So therefore, you don't have the IT problem. So you carry on doing your business. We'll run your IT. You run your business. Everyone's happy. But obviously, on the back of that, we need to do reporting and say, right, this is what we've done for you this month. Because otherwise, it's like, well, nothing's gone wrong. It's never as quite simple as that. Of course, things went wrong.
Of
But,
course.
that was the idea of, well, we'll show you we are doing stuff in the background. And when you do need to call us, we're there, and we can jump onto your machines really quickly because we've got this RMM tool. So yeah, getting that across to people, they didn't get it. As I
Mhm.
said, our CEO couldn't find a techie that got the concept, let alone clients, customers, So in the early stages, that was it. But when we got better at that discussion, telling people this is how it works and this is the benefit of it, and you know what you're paying every month, because a really bad technical person could cost a huge amount to them because they're spending 4 hours fixing a problem that should take half an hour or less. Whereas if they're paying a monthly, they know what's going out every month, and it's a simple per device cost. So yeah. And the world started catching up with us because obviously we were the first people ever to do it.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, that kind of managed service thing started to become a thing. So, people were more comfortable with it. But yeah, I mean, the challenge right from the beginning, on top of like the sales piece and convincing people this was the right model for them, was just the scaling. But it was like scaling up, and it's just the problems of running a small business, right?
Right.
So you don't want to get the next person in case you don't get the clients, but you can't service the clients without getting the next person in. So you have to make that jump and get people in, and just make that, make that leap.
Sure.
But once you've got to a certain amount of people, you can start doing a better service and bringing things that you should do, like ticketing.
Right.
In the early days, ticketing wasn't that easy, and we didn't have ConnectWise.
Mhm.
In fact, we were using Salesforce as our ticketing.
Wow.
Oddly, because it was quite, you could manipulate it. You could make it do what you like.
Right.
So we could record things in it. So we used it for sales as well as for ticketing, but it just wasn't up to it.
Right.
So then we looked for a PSA. There was not much on the market. Autotask was in its infancy, and it was quite broad, but very shallow. It couldn't do very much. ConnectWise was actually pretty good in its day. Now it's really hasn't moved on very much. It's quite clunky, but you're kind of wedded to it. So that kind of management became a bit of a thing as well. Now, managing tickets, managing just the business from sales through to ticketing, through to invoicing and through, but the PSA really helped.
Mhm.
If we'd gone enable back then, obviously there's now that, that part
Yep.
that we could have utilized, but
Mhm.
and now it's almost impossible for us to get away from ConnectWise onto something else.
Sure.
But yeah, so the challenges were less technical and more convincing people, and just the thing about growing a business, right? Oddly, our MSP was the owner, sort of the MD,
Mhm.
was a sales background. Most MSPs are put together and built by technical people, so we kind of had that as an advantage. That's got its pitfalls as well.
Yeah.
So there's no sweet spot. There's no proper balance between sales and technical and who should be running what and whatever.
Right.
So I'm the technical director, CTO, but I'm the technical director of a technical company.
Yeah.
So the CEO's job is to run a technical company. So there's that big crossover,
Yep.
Whereas in a non-technical company, CTO is kind of the guy that looks after the technology and knows the technology, and the CEO kind of looks after the business. But our business is technology, so there's that
Yes.
kind of, thing to work out as well. But
Yep.
it's just another challenge.
I'll say that what I've seen, I come from an MSP as well in America that had a number of sort of executives and leaders, and some that were sales focused, some that had some technical, no technical, and then some that were just technology focused that had no sales focus.
Mm.
But as I've been exposed to our partners and MSPs that I would say are, maybe doing things best in class or just really different, they do have that model. And where there's sort of a CEO that is more sales focused and a CTO or a technical leader that is more technology focused. And that pair, that dynamic, that number one can see the vision simultaneously, but go at it from a different direction is a really, really powerful thing. And
actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So Jim and I, we kind of have the same vision, but it's odd you should say that because we approach it from different angles completely, but we kind of meet in the middle.
That's right.
When we used to work out figures, how much do you think this will cost, he'd say, and I'd work it out and say, well, this, I think, he said, I came to almost exactly the same figure, but from a completely different way of working out, which is interesting. And it's kind of checks and balances.
Yeah.
So
great.
But you asked something earlier as well. What was the point we decided that Kaseya wasn't the right tool for us anymore? Yeah. It was really because they got purchased. They lost sight of the MSP. They decided that there was a gold mine here. They changed the top people. So we used to know Neil Blackie and the owner, the CEO, and people that developed it. Then there was this takeover. Everything changed. The UK technical director got booted out, as did most of the staff. They did a complete change around, and it was clear the focus went away from the MSP and more into how can we use this tool for enterprise, how we can make huge amounts of money off the back of it, and not. They lost sight of where they started from, and that was an issue for us.
Yeah.
So we looked around, and I found Enable. It was Enable then it became SolarWinds MSP. Now we're Enable again, Enable again, which is good. It was like, how can we find something? At least we knew what we were looking for. We'd experienced the tool. Enable had only just brought in sort of a managed AV at that point, so it was about 10 years ago, I guess.
Sure.
And it seemed like, I think within a few weeks there was an event in Amsterdam. So I went to that and I thought, these are good guys. This seems good. This seems like a company that's taking it seriously. There's a good attitude. They're putting more into the product. So I thought, yeah, okay, we'll do that. So we transitioned over. We haven't looked back, to be honest.
Great. I was an early Enable 1.0 customer as well. And I remember the same thing. It was definitely a different type of a vendor to work with. It was a relationship.
It was.
The folks that you knew back then, most of them are still here today, which I think it says something about the business. But I love your point about, sort of the focus on the MSP. And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to join the company is as an MSP, I love a partnership where, I work for a team now where my sole goal is to help our partners grow.
Yeah.
And that's great that we've made an investment into something like that. And so I love to hear that, something that was really, really important to you. Obviously, unfortunate that another vendor, they lost vision, but that you found it with us. And I thank you for.
Yeah. And I love the honesty as well. So David Weeks says every time, this is about you.
That's right.
But he's honest. He's saying, if you grow your business, it grows our business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not trying to hide behind, we're all about you. It's nothing to do with our business. We're just for you. I love the honesty. It's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
And help grow our business and it helps grow your business.
Yep.
And, in some of your sessions, you say, look, we're not selling product. We're not even going to talk about Enable product. We're trying to make your business better.
Right. That's it. It's a beautiful thing. It's the greatest job in the world to be able to talk to MSPs and share my experiences and bring other MSPs together so that you guys get better as MSPs. I love it.
Enable Spam Expert's incoming email filter helps protect your network against spam, viruses, phishing, and malware attacks with nearly a 100% accuracy rate. Driven by a continuously updated intelligent protection and filtering engine, Spam Experts provides one of the best and most complete email filtering platforms on the market. The solution works right out of the box and is compatible with nearly any email server. Whether deployed in our highly redundant cloud or on your on-premises hardware, it has ready-made integrations, automation plugins, and APIs. Simply add the domains you want to filter and reroute your email through an easy MX record change in your DNS. The multi-level control panel offers different permission levels and gives you the ability to access quarantine, extract reports, perform custom log searches, manage allow or block lists, and even customize it to your own brand. The incoming filter also provides valuable email continuity by adding an extra level of redundancy to your email flows. In the event that your mail server cannot be reached, email continuity is designed to safely queue your incoming messages and prevent them from being lost or immediately bounced back to the sender. Queued messages can be accessed via the web interface and will be delivered when your mail server is back online, or can be manually retried. Spend less time dealing with spam and more time focusing on the tasks that really matter. Start your free trial today.
Perry, think about back, 18 years ago up to today, and what was the point that maybe you guys got together and said, this is it. We did the right thing. We made the right decision. We've created the right type of company. This is what we should be doing. We're helping our customers in the right way. Was there a point in time that you remember, like, yeah,
That's a tricky one because I think the first year was really tough, and we're all working stupid hours and wearing all the hats,
Yep.
with HR, all the internal stuff. We're doing all the admin stuff, the accounting, the whole lot. But I think pretty much from the beginning, we thought this is right.
right.
This is where we should be. This
Yeah.
is what we want to be doing. I say Jim did it because he saw there was a gap in the market and needed to fill it. And I did it because I saw there was a gap in the market for a different gap in the market.
Sure.
But, doing this remote service for helping people get their IT working properly. So I don't think there was a point where we went, this is right.
Yeah.
I think we kind of always knew this was the right thing.
Yep.
It was just working out the nuances of how to run it, how to do it properly.
Yeah.
There wasn't a workbook because there weren't any MSPs.
Of
Everything was break
course.
fix. So,
Right.
or pretty much everything was break fix. This conversation was happening more in the States,
Yep.
actually. So, being UK based, we're a bit behind the curve on IT most of the time. So we used to have, there's a lady called Robin Robbins who used to do a kind of a masterclass in
Sure.
marketing, and we used to listen to her stuff and go, there's some good ideas here. We've always been open to that sort of external thing. So
Yep.
it's like, and that kind of made us, in those days, it was like, well, do free audits, go to
Yep.
site, do free audits. We used to spend 2 or 3 days auditing, looking at absolutely everything within an organization to
Yep.
put this, red, amber, green traffic light report
Sure.
together to say, this is where we are, this is what we've seen, this is what you need to do. We don't do that anymore.
Right.
Because whenever you go in, you can't get under the hood until you're really in there.
Mhm.
So we saw the surface. We spent hours doing this. It was kind of expected as well.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We kind of do a little discovery, but yeah, we say we'll find this out as we go in.
Yeah. So let's talk about the future for Ziptech. What do you think it's going to look like, Perry? Is there plans for maybe even some M&A, or what's the growth strategy vector look like for you guys?
So we engage in something called the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System,
Sure.
as well as True Methods. So
Yep.
we're in the winner's circle on that as well.
Yep.
So we've got some frameworks that we work around. The great thing about the EOS, the traction thing, is you plan ahead. So we've got quarterly goals, so quarterly rocks. So we got annual company rocks, and we've got a 3-year vision and a 10-year kind of where we're going to be in 10 years.
Right.
Where would we like to be in 10 years? Because you can't plan for 10 years.
Sure.
You can't plan for 3 years, to be honest. Not in this market. It's moving too fast. In 3 years, our plan is to have acquired a company. So we're not interested in selling. We are literally zero interest in selling Ziptech. We don't want to build it up, make it really, worth huge amounts of money and sell
And
it
then
off.
get out, yeah.
It's a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. We actually want to build it and build it and build it and make
Right.
it one of the best MSPs in the world, kind of thing.
Right.
So we're no interest in selling it, but we do know we've grown organically. We've literally started. We've never borrowed a penny, and we've never been in debt, and we've got money in the bank, and we need to invest that money. And a great way of doing that is by acquiring other MSPs that maybe need help or maybe want to sell off, and because they're a lifestyle and they want to go and have their Porsche and drive around Italy or whatever it is they want to do. And it's a great way of acquiring customers without all the marketing and that sort of thing. So M&A is something we are looking at, and we want to. So within 3 years, it's a goal. So we'll do it because we achieve our goals pretty much all the time. So yeah, that's one aspect of it. But in terms of where we see the business going, everyone's talking about it. It's AI, it's automation, it's business analytics, you know, and automation's a big field in itself. So if you're talking about automation, we're starting to automate internally. So we've just taken on Peer as a automation for our ConnectWise to try and help that, try and help our help desk people. We're heavily going through the cookbook for automation through Enable.
Mhm.
And we had a goal last quarter to, I can't remember the figures, but it was to fix a certain amount of things through automation. I know we've got a tick box now in our ConnectWise that if you fix it through automation, tick the
Mhm.
box, and it's a goal, and it was a focus. So that's big for us. But for our clients, obviously they're not fixing computers and they're not fixing things through automation. It's the process automation, automating their internal processes, making things run smoothly, stopping people having to do this boring thing of taking something from one system into Excel, then exporting that into another, importing that into another system, and all that manual stuff, trying to help them along their business process, or just using things like Power Automate to actually just streamline their operations or do things that they hadn't considered and didn't know about. So we run workshops. So we started to run workshops with our clients, and we hold what we call directors briefings. So they're briefings on what we think, would help businesses out. Currently, we're doing automation series. In the past, we've done things on 365, Azure, Teams, SharePoint, that sort of stuff. But yeah, automation is the big focus right now. And off the back of that, or side by side with that, is the business analytics piece. We see AI a little bit down the road,
Mhm.
but it's there. We're not ignoring it. In fact, we've told all of our staff, we'll pay the $20 a month, but you get Chat GPT 4, get the subscription version. It still only goes up to September 2021,
Yep.
but, so don't use that for working out anything new,
Right.
If you look at who's the prime minister, it still thinks it's Boris Johnson. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where we're seeing that vision.
Yep.
Also, the other bit, which we've kind of slightly lost focus on, is the security.
Sure.
So we're not an MSSP, but we think we should be. We do take all of our clients through Cyber Essentials. It's mandatory. It used to be a bolt-on. We used to take them through it, and Cyber Essentials Plus, which is the UK governance, is quite a low level, but it's really good stuff. It's solid stuff. If people do that, they're so much better than before they did it, if they do it properly and not just a tick box exercise. So we properly take them through that, and they are more secure at the end of it than they were to start with. So it's mandatory for our client. But I think to fill that, we need a managed SOC and SIM solution. I think more and more of our clients are going to be asking for it. One or two do, the larger ones. But I think at some point with, I don't know, maybe the cyber insurance thing that's getting tricky. They want more and more things, pen testing and that sort of thing.
Yep.
I think SOC and SIM is going to be a thing.
Yep.
How are you preventing? How do you know you're not under attack? That sort of thing. So I think a managed SOC and SIM will kind of, a bit like when we started, we had to persuade some of our clients that they needed to do backup. And then we went, hold on, actually, this isn't even a conversation. If you want us to manage you, you have to do backup.
That's great.
I think it'll end up being that in maybe 3 years' time. It will be mandatory that they have a SOC and SIM solution, and the prices would have come right down.
Mhm.
So we're looking at right now, by the end of this year, our financial year, we want to have a permanent compliance and security person. All they do is security and compliance in place
Mhm.
for our internally, but mainly for our clients, so that we can use that as a service, a bolt-on service, a monthly and working out how can we make it a proper monthly recurring revenue. What do you add in to make that happen? So we're also ISO 27001 ourselves.
Right.
Most of our clients have no requirement for that.
Right.
Some of our clients, we wouldn't have had them as clients if we weren't 27001. They don't need to do that themselves, but it gives them that assurance. But I think to get, PCI or whatever it happens to be, and I need to look at this NIS2 that's coming out, and because we Brexited, so we're not part of Europe anymore as such. We're still very, very closely aligned. So I need to see if that is going to be a compulsory thing for us in the UK as well.
Right.
And that's something I actually got from this.
Right.
When people were asking questions about it, it's like, I wasn't even aware of that. So that's something I need to look up when I get back.
Great.
But that's it. So security, automation, Power BI type stuff, analytics and that sort of thing. And eventually AI, we see those as big things coming along. So we're building sort of little business units around that at the moment.
Excellent. Perry, what a pleasure it was to talk to you. It always is. This was such a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you and Ziptech all the luck in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Been a pleasure.
Great.
Take care.
To receive updates about future episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or your preferred podcast platform, and follow Enable on LinkedIn. We appreciate your support and encourage you to leave a rating or review, as it helps us reach more listeners who can benefit from the wealth of knowledge shared on this show. Remember, success is not a destination, it's a journey. And by immersing yourself in the stories of those who have walked the path before you, you'll gain the tools, inspiration and confidence to achieve your own triumphs. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes of Now That's It, Stories of MSP Success. This podcast provides educational information about issues that may be relevant to information technology service providers. Nothing in the podcast should be construed as any recommendation or endorsement by Enable or as legal or any other advice. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the podcast does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Enable employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the view of Enable or its officers and directors. This podcast may also contain forward-looking statements regarding future product plans, functionality, or developmental efforts that should not be interpreted as a commitment from Enable related to any deliverables or timeframe. All content is based on information available at the time of recording, and Enable has no obligation to update any forward-looking statements.